A very good morning and welcome back to the Global Trail World Series, the premier trail running event in the world, the most spectacular, certainly the most competitive, and we are already into week two. Zegama last weekend, and we are in Trentino, Italy for round two of the 2026 season. Well, those who followed the series last year will remember this venue. This is where the grand final was held, so there's only been one race since we were last here. That, of course, was Zegama last weekend. What an occasion that was in Spain. And the conditions look considerably better than they were last year. It's absolutely mirror calm on Lake Ledro, and the conditions are perfect for some mountain running. Well, let's have a look at the program for the Gtws, the Global Trail World Series. And of course, as I mentioned, Zegama was number one, the hardest of the season, coming first, 42 kilometers, 2.736. So that's 2,700 meters of climbing. Absolutely astonishing. Then on to the Ledro Sky Trentino, where we are today. And we head to Quebec for round three, the mega trail. And that will be on July the 5th. After that, a little bit of a break, August the 1st, for the Solomon Pitts Alpine Glacier Trail race, where we had cancellations or a change in the course last year. Hopefully we'll be able to get up to the high point this time round. And then round five, Sierra Zinal, along with Zegama, perhaps the two most famous trail races. Myoko Trail in Japan, September the 20th. It's 23k, just a little bit longer than the average. Certainly harder than the average is the Yin Shanling Great Wall Trail Race on September the 27th. And then, of course, the grand final scheduled for 24-25 October. One or two changes this year with no preliminary round. And that, of course, is going to be in Korea, the Muju Trail, to finish off what is a fabulous program. Well, the hardest is out of the way, some would say, but the grand final was here last year in Italy. Ledro, beautiful, beautiful area, just little villages around Lago del Ledro. Crystal clear waters, quite cold at this time of year, still full of glacial water. And of course, this in the northern part of Italy. We're level with the north end of Lake Garda, if that makes any sense. You're not far from the Swiss border. And we've still got a few minutes. The race due off at the top of the hour. Let's have a look at some of the highlights from Zegama last week. So Zegama, the first race in the series this year, Zegama-Aizkorri Marathon in the Basque region of Spain. 42 kilometers with 2,700 meters of climbing. Remy Bonnet set the pace early on. Undoubtedly one of the best climbers in the world, but he was chased hard. Toby Alexanderson, pretty new to the world of trail running, taking on Sara Alonso, the home favourite and, of course, the defending champion. Bonnet celebrating from start through to at least halfway, where he was finally overtaken by last year's Global Trail champion, Elazzaoui. Alexanderson, despite the muddy, wet, difficult conditions, absolutely taking the records apart. But then in the closing stages, Daniel Pattis, who'd put up a good fight, just couldn't live with the pace. Elazzaoui on that descent, the final bit of the descent. So Elazzaoui, Pattis and Taylor Stack, the top three in the men. In the women, two Spaniards in the top three, but it was was Sweden's Tove Alexandersson. 8 minutes inside the previous record, setting the new standard at Zegama. She isn't here today. Very few of those racing last weekend are racing, which I'm sure you can understand. One that is of course Elazzaoui, the Moroccan. He's come for a double dose. Many physiologists, I think, would suggest you need at least 4 weeks to recover from what they did last weekend, but he's on the lineup, and it's going to be fantastic to see him in action. There you see the overall points. Tove Alexandersson, not only did she win the race and get 200 points for that, she picked up bonuses for the uphill section, the flat section, the sprint section, and the downhill section. Topped all of those, so ended up with a whopping 230 points. Elhousine Elazzaoui, 212 in total. Some handy bonus points. Daniel Pattis, who led for the most of the race, to be honest. Absolutely fantastic, the Italian, and finishing in the end second. Couldn't live with the sprint finish from Elazzaoui. Taylor Stack continuing the form that he showed at the end of last year. Third place for him. Marillis with the sticks did well, the bamboo poles, and then Remy Bonnet, the early leader in the race, down in 5th place and picking up 164 points in total. Well, let's have a look at the course for today. David Heller would be with us shortly to cast his expert eye over the field. Now, as we mentioned, the northern part of Italy for the Ledro Sky Trentino, and just under the 22-kilometer distance. It's pretty flat to start with. They get about a K and a half of flat running around the lake, and then the climbing starts. 3 big peaks in all to be taken on today. It's a nice mix of forest and then beautiful single trail. The ridgeline is pretty treacherous, and there are plenty of World War I trenches to be negotiated, and the long descent. But that is not the end of it. It's an easy 4K to finish, but the legs are shot by that stage, and then you have to have a little bit of leg speed come the last 2 kilometers. Exactly the same course as we had last year for the grand final. Now let's have a look at the top winning. Madalina Florea, the winner of the series last year. Joyce Mattoni, she's certainly going to be competitive. Conti of Italy, very aggressive runner. Caroline Kimotai, wonder what she will do today. Marie Nivet, experienced here. And Madalina Amarai, the up-and-coming Romanian. Nice mix of nationalities. Florea, of course, not racing last weekend, so she'll be relatively fit, and the word is that she's on good form. But we will never really know until we get, what, at least halfway into the descent here.
20 seconds.
So round 2 of the Global Trail World Series about to get underway. The women starting first, and then the men's race starting in 20 minutes or so. And that gives us a really good opportunity to see who the early pace setters are. Remember, the first K, 1,200 meters or so, is very fast and flat. A chance for the marathon runners to show their stuff. Do they want to save themselves for the climb? Probably advisable, but you have to play your trump card when the opportunity arises. 500 runners in all today. Just in case you missed the list of the top runners, Madalina Florea, she's wearing 1. Joyce Mattoni, Enduro, one of the best climbers in the field. She's wearing 2. 3 is Fabiola Conti, a mountain specialist, certainly. Great on the uphills, great on the downhills. Will she be able to live with the pace of the brilliant climbers? Caroline Kimutai of Kenya again, racing for Team Salomon. Won the Great Wall race last year in China, won in Sierra Zinal as well. Now, just in case you haven't seen one of these global trail races, we rely largely on drone footage, of course, but once we're in the mountains, that becomes impossible. We have a number of cyclists who are carrying cameras. Okay, on a section like this, it gets very, very tricky on the technical sections on the hill, and that is where they call in the world-class runners to carry cameras and try and set the shot as they negotiate some very technical, very, very difficult tracks on the way down. Well, beautiful conditions. It's going to get hotter and hotter. They'll be glad of an early start, coming up to 9:15 local time here in Trentino.
And our runners are looking extremely smooth. I'm with you now, Patrick. Apologies for the delay in joining the speed of our athletes already. Blazing out there.
Yeah, it's a good thing you're not racing, David. You'd have missed the start. Yeah, it's. I remember this last year, 1 or 2 athletes going very, very hard. I'm interested in your opinion, David, as whether if you're a road runner and a marathon runner, do you use your speed on this section, or do you save your legs, your muscles, your energy for the climbing?
At this stage, I think they're doing the right thing, because it's not just about preserving your glycogen stores, it's actually about unsettling your opponents. And what they know is that, Caroline Kimutai in the center, a very fast runner, but very sheepish when it comes to the descents. She knows that not only is Madalina Florea a fierce descender, but also knows this course. She's been here all week. She's raced in last year's final. And so while she'll be feeling comfortable right now, she's trying to pull the other athletes into the red zone slightly, so that it will just slow them down on the climb. It will take the kick out, the sting out of their tail, so that when they hit that downhill, they won't have quite the energy or the legs to be able to glide in the way they'd like to.
Yeah, so play your trump cards if you've got them. Just a reminder, last year this race won in 2:22.51. Lauren Gregory of the United States coming in ahead of Florea. What do we have? A 2.5 minute gap between 1 and 2. The top 5 all coming in within 5 minutes of each other. It was a hard-fought race at the end of last season.
And if we think back to the final, is this... Wow, what a fast start. We thought Ruth might take to the lead. This is an athlete that you won't have seen before in the Golden Trail. She is arriving here with some pedigree, though, and actually we've got quite a few new runners for you today that you won't have heard of before, coming from Team Run Together, but also part of the Salomon Trail team as well. And so we're expecting to see... In fact, sorry, apologies, that was Joyce Njiru. I wasn't expecting to see Joyce in that colour, but also at the front of the pack. If we think back to our final last year, though, I do remember Sarah Alonso saying that at the beginning they were going so fast. Joyce and Madalina up the climb were burying themselves in a battle. And it wasn't until the second half of the race that Lauren Gregory came through and seized that lead. And so there is a trap in this course, being so fast, but also the climb being so long that you can go out too hard.
Yeah, and Enduro in the end coming down. Where did she finish? 8th place last year. Florea survived, but finished 2nd, and you could argue that had she gone just a little bit easier in the early stages. But the other noticeable feature about this course, Dave, is you come down off the descent, and that is going to hurt absolutely everyone. You've still got, what, 4.5K of gently undulating running to finish, so you have to have some leg speed left at the end of the day.
And that's really unusual for a race like this. Typically, you're coming off a mountain, you're running into the finish. It's a downhill that flows all the way in. But as you say, our athletes are going to have to hold back because there's quite a lot of work to be had in that last 5K. And in fact, we saw Elhousine take the lead at that stage of the course. And we saw Joyce Giroux just shedding places on the run in. And so it not only do you have to have the energy, but if you feel broken, it is so demoralizing. And the mental energy needed, we saw Sarah Alonso fall in that run in as well, because she was so drained.
So pretty stiff pace. They'll be glad to be into the cooler woods, but they're going to have great temperature fluctuations throughout the day. Zegama last week, there was still snow on the summit, so there was some question as to whether they'd have to alter the course, but that didn't happen. It was a brilliant race, and yeah, absolutely outstanding performance by Tove Alexandersen. So nice rhythmical running, just trying to get the breathing settled. I guess that's the advantage of having a quick section down the bottom, a good, 1,200 meters, just to settle the pulse and the breathing.
Yeah, they've got a gentle climb here. Well, we say gentle, but compared to what is up ahead of them, they will be climbing for about 250 meters before they get a little bit of a dip, and then the real climbing begins. And you'll see here, I mean, Caroline, a very good ascender, looking very smooth right now. There will be stages on this course where they will have to hike. It does become rockier, but even now you can see this is single track, and that means unless you're feeling really held back by the pace of the person ahead of you, you have to stick behind them, and being in the front means you set the pace because no one can overtake you when it's so close like this. But already, look, Madalina Florea dropping off the back, it seems. We can see the pace of Carolina Kimitai is already stretching that pack, and potentially a good move from Madalina it could be, or it could be that she's just not having her day already.
Well, we'll find out in 2 hours' time. Yeah, it's an impressive start from Caroline Kimitai leading the way. Of course, she won the Great Wall Race last year in China. She won again in Sierra Zinal. Two really tough races. So she's got it mentally, and just a question of how she copes with the downhill here in Trentino. This is one of the most stunning areas. Yeah, loads of history here as well, David.
Yeah, we're going to be running along the trenches at the top that date back to the First World War. And it is significant because these aren't necessarily trails that have been curated through thousands of years of people walking over them. They're rocky, they are embedded, they're challenging to run through. But look at this now. She really is stretching everyone out here, pushing harder than we'd expect to see at this stage. But we saw in China how fast she is. We saw in Sierra Zinal, and she's looking comfortable right now, and it's unsettling everyone. Now, one of the other runners who we may be seeing today that hasn't been announced in our top 10, has kind of appeared on the scene, is Ninga Engelhard from Germany. She's double world champion, double European champion, and she's not someone that follows series, who often races, and so she's a name for us to look out for, because if anyone can come through later on, you know, she has got the pedigree to show that she can race and against runners like this and perform extremely well at the highest level.
So early days here in Trentino, the Ledro Sky Trail race, round 2 of the Global Trail Series. Two races in 2 weeks effectively, and because of the severity of round 1, Zegama, there are very, very few athletes who are doubling up, and it's a huge question over whether Elhousine Elazzaoui can recover in time to hold off the Kenyans in particular today. Well, there you see the positions. Madalina Florea, 3:41 on the sprint section at the bottom. So that's a handy 10 points that she'll pick up in the early stages. Were you surprised to see Alexanderson picking up 30 bonus points in last weekend's race?
I mean, we've set these segments out there to mix the series up a little bit, but also the idea is to allow different athletes to shine, but to force the athletes to actually commit to different parts of the circuit, and that's why it's so surprising that no one even got close on any of the segments with Tove. She's not necessarily racing our series. We're still trying to get her in for the following races. So she'd have just been running that as her average pace across the course. And yet the individuals who may have been thinking, now's my time to shine, or the specialists who were better at the climb or the downhill, just couldn't get close to her. And we're going to talk about the men's segments a bit later, because this is where it becomes significant, because we did see some individuals winning segments, and it's changed their overall scores for our series so far. And I think there could be a few more tactics in the men's race. But the fact that Madalina Florea has got 10 points already, she's actually leading in the series right now, even though she's sat in 4th.
So the first, 15k, just about. In fact, the high point at 10k. So they've still got a way to go before they achieve that. A lot of ridge running to negotiate. Chima Pari, Chima Slapper, and Chima Doro, the 3 peaks that they will go over today. In terms of technical descending, it was brutal last year. There's no change on the course, but how would you rate the descent here in Italy compared to what we saw in the Basque Country last weekend?
The Basque Country has a couple of different sections. Right at the top, if you remember, there's some very rocky descending where you have to almost climb and scramble. Then you come down into mud, and we saw a lot of people falling and slipping out. Very different here, as you can see underfoot. Even though there was snow at the weekend, it has dried out now, and this means that there's greater differences between our technical descenders, because you're going to see someone like Caroline who's coming in who will be nervous, and she'll slow down, whereas Madalina, it's a very technical down. There are some switchbacks, but then there are some almost sheer drops at the end of the toboggan, which is our downhill segment, and that's where we'll see people like Madalina Florea really catch up if they are behind at that section.
Now, if you're wondering why the athletes are breathing so hard, we can't actually hear Caroline Kimatai's breathing. This is the camera person who's doing their best to stay with the athletes, and as I'm sure you understand, you need world-class runners to do that job, and hopefully we'll get an insight into what they do at some stage of today's race. This is an impressive start.
Interesting, she's already looking back. She's clearly wanting to sense check how she's pacing against everyone else. It's already quite bright out there. This morning, even at 7 o'clock, you could feel the full force of the sun. And for this early in the season, athletes are coming out of the winter and they're really going to struggle with the heat. But let's look at our top 10 today. As we know, Elhousine Elazzaoui, winner in Zegama, racing a week later. Will that be tired legs? But his 2 biggest rivals from last year, Philemon Kiriego and Patrick Kipanino, number 2 and number 3, they have both been neck and neck with him sprint finishes in the last 2 seasons, and we'll be hoping to do the same. But it was number 4, Paul Machoka, who actually led out for the vast majority for our final here in Ledro last year. Someone else I'd like to highlight, Michael his name is on there as Michael Celilo, also known as Michael Scioli. He has been the form athlete so far this season, so he's the one to watch.
So just a recap of the course, exactly the same as we saw at the beginning of the women's. Just over 1.1 kilometers of fast flat that leads to the base of the climb. And then it's relentless for the next 9 kilometers as they switch back their way up the climb to the summit, the first of the summits at Chima-Pari.
And you can see our segments on here as well as they come out of Chima-Pari. That climb up to the top is worth 10 points, but across the top it's heartbreaking. While it looks like a descent, they're actually very technical and very hard to find your footing. But we're here on the start line. Someone else to highlight who I believe will be right at the front, Ezekiel and Cesare Maestri, number 13 there, the local Italian runner, knows this course, was the course record in the past. Ezekiel Ruto, though, who isn't on screen currently, he led out in China. He's led out at the World Championships before, and he's someone who we often find in the first third of the race is running a pace that he can't sustain. So it wouldn't surprise me if he is featuring early on in our race today as well.
Just a number check for some of the athletes. Elazzaoui, the series leader after his victory in Zegama last weekend, wearing 1. Kiriago is in 2. Kipingino is 3. Paul Machoka, who put up such a good fight last year, in 4. We got Kiprotich 5. Santa Maria, a good tactician, wearing 6. 7 is Michael Scioli. And then Jan Terela Ola, who's pretty new to this world, wearing 8, but a class athlete. Kiplomo 9. Damien Bogdan, who we've seen a lot of over the series in the last couple of years, wearing 10. Ruto is 11, and Omi is 12, with Cesare Maestri 13 and Mattia Tanara 14. The winner likely to come out of that group, but we will see some of the higher numbers making an impression, particularly some of the local Italians who have focused all their effort on doing well in this race rather than success in the series as a whole.
And it is great to see Cesare Maestri on the front line there, the tall Italian. He's the world snowshoeing champion, but he had a disastrous race in our final. We can talk about his injuries later, so the fact that he's not only back running, but the fact he's on the front of a race of this caliber is great to see. But this on our screen there, that was Michael Scioli, who is he's been in Team Run Together for some time, but he hasn't been the star of the show yet. We actually have seen this season, he has been the athlete who's most likely to challenge Elhousine. He's beaten Philemon in the mountain running championships. He's won 2 races in China already this year. And so now is the time that he has the opportunity to really stake his claim as being the number 1 of Run Together and the athlete who can finally challenge Elhousine. Now we mentioned last week about how Elhousine suddenly was wearing shades on the start line that he hadn't before, the sunglasses, and I asked him why this was. Apparently he's picked up a tip from Killian, because at the beginning of these races he's often swarmed by fans, asked for autographs, asked questions. They're his defense, where he puts his shades on and it means he can just relax and focus and get into the zone. So a nice little tip for you: if you're a celebrity on a start line, just get the shades on.
Well, not something I'm ever going to have to worry about. And the big question, I guess, as they start here in Ledro for the start of the second round of the Global Trail World Series. And exactly the same trail. They are chasing the women exactly 20 minutes behind. They will catch some of the tail enders at some stage. Elazzaoui won't feature, I don't think, in the first couple of 100 meters. But you can rest assured that when the climbing starts, he will position himself perfectly. I guess the big question is it possible to recover from a race like Zegama in just 7 days?
And for us mere mortals, the answer is obviously no. One of the questions, though, that we've asked Elhousine is, how full gas was Zegama for him? And we have an early leader here. I'm not quite sure who this is. I think it's a local runner. I'd be very surprised if we see them towards the end. But significantly, we are in our sprint segment. This is worth 10 points, 200 points for winning the race today. And so having an individual in there that isn't one of your rivals could be quite useful for Elhousine. And you can see already Philemon on the right of our screen here, Philemon Kiriago battling there. He clearly wants to be up amongst it. Maybe that sprint section points in mind.
Kiriago, of course, the winner of Sierra Zinal last year, and won in Golfo del Isola as well. Is he the up and down world champion? So he's a class act, and wearing bib number 2, if you can read it. A little bit difficult with the footage. But yeah, I had a quick look, a little Google about recovery from marathons, and it said the first week, the first 7 days, your feet are up. You do a bit of cross training, maybe, bit of swimming, bit of cycling, something just to stay active, but to let the muscles recover. As far as the cardiovascular side goes, it doesn't really matter, but it's the muscles and the ligaments that really suffer from punishment like Zegama.
And I can confirm Elhousine was playing football 2 days ago. So he's clearly doing some movement in there. But look at this pace now. Philemon went out hard in the final, and I know he does like to lead early, but this is almost, I wouldn't expect to see him working so hard right now, really pushing into this. And you can see as that the pack stretched away. We were expecting to see Paul Machoka up there, potentially Ezekiel Russo, a bigger group, but he's clearly decided to try and do something different. And this is the impact of early in the season when you don't know what your race pace is, but also when you've got someone like Elhousine behind you, he forces you to do crazy things.
Yeah, what we do know is the quality of the field behind, and there are no slouches in there. This is just reminding me of last week and Remy Bonnet, who went off at a suicidal pace. He paid the price at what, about 12, 13k, couldn't keep it going any longer. It was an impressive start. Did it unsettle Elazzaoui? I don't think it did. I think he knows exactly how hard he needs to race. But we're all sort of secretly hoping that Kiriago can keep this going right the way to the summit at 10k.
And Kiriago is not, and if we look at our pack there, we don't see Patrick Kipignino, we don't see Elhousine. You can see Michael Scioli off the back there on the right in the white and maroon top. That's Paul Machoka. But look at this gap. This shows the confidence of our athletes. Elhousine there leading the chase in the shades, just looking absolutely chill.
There will be no panic whatsoever. Are we going to see the same sort of tactic? Will he feed off those who climb the fastest and then deny them in the last couple of kilometers?
We saw in Zegama how relaxed he is now with letting people break away and build these leads. And he just knows that he has to be within sight of them at the top of the down. And I was talking to Philemon about how to approach this. For me, this is not the right tactic from him. I don't think he beats Elhousine by stretching him early. I think he needs to sit on his shoulder on the downhill so that he can reverse the playbook that Elhousine plays on everyone else and save some corners, let Elhousine navigate that downhill. And we've talked about how long that 5K in was. It was actually Patrick Kipinine who was the fastest closer in our final here last year. And we've seen that Philemon has a sprint finish that can beat Elhousine. We saw that in Noli at El Golfo de Losela.
Just looking at the times there, David, 3:09, 1,080 meters. That is a mean pace. You've got to bear in mind that they've got half a marathon to come today. Just looking at the women's race, Caroline Kimitai, who was leading when she started the climb, has stretched her lead. Madalina Florea up there in the top three. We've got Kitonga up there in the top three as well, and Nina Engelhard is racing pretty well, back in fourth place at the moment, ahead of Joyce and Giro.
Yeah, and that's a blisteringly fast start. They're looking at, what, 15-minute 5Ks. And given that this is going to be a 2-hour race, you know, kind of marathon time effort, 15Ks already in the heat. Impressive to see.
So early stages of the men's race, the women 20 minutes up the hill already.
Now, one of the changes from previous seasons is that Patrick Kipinino is coming into this season under-raced. He's been injured, and that means Philemon really is the leader of the Run Together team to get today. And it has felt over the last few days that he's felt a little bit of pressure of being the main man for them, and I wonder whether that's why he's leading out today. You know, he feels he needs to put this marker down.
Well, nothing comes for free, and I think there'll be one or two coaches who are just a little bit concerned, but the fact that the group behind are catching up, it looks to me as though the game was to get the 10 points for the sprint section at the bottom. That could be handy come the end of the day.
Yeah, and if we look at the points from last weekend, so it's 200 points for a win, 188 points for second place, 176 for a third. Because of the segments, 3 segments worth 10 points each, we saw Taylor Stack, who finished third last week, only on 176 points, whereas Daniel Pattis up 200 points and Elhousine 212 points. So, you know, even though they finished in first, second, third place overall in the race, Daniel Pattis and Elhousine Elazzaoui have stretched their lead over Taylor Stack in third. And so, for me, it's useful for our leaders to be picking up these extra 10 points. But if you're sat in 6th, 7th, 8th in a race, if you can pick up one of those segments, the difference between getting a 10-pointer is the difference between potentially 3 or 4 places at the finish line. And so it makes sense to actually use a little bit of your energy to guarantee, if you're a good downhiller, if you're a good uphiller, that segment win, even if you lose a place or two, because you'll end up in more points in the series.
Yeah, provided you win. And nothing is assured, even at this stage. Well, they'll be glad of the shade in the early part of the climbing. Of course, we get above the tree line about halfway up. Most of the hills around here just under that 2,000 meter mark, so altitude's not a huge problem, but you know, anyone who's raced over 1,500 meters knows it does make a difference. But most of these athletes live high, train high, so I can't see that being too much of an issue today.
Now, one factor that could come into this race, I mentioned earlier that Patrick hasn't been racing as much this season. At this stage last year, he'd won 2 Golden Trail races already, but he's actually coming back from an injury and has only been running for 6 weeks.
Well, the cameraman's pretty much full-on sprint at the moment as we stay with the 3 leaders in the men's race.
Now, these 3 know each other extremely well. We've got the 2 run-together runners there, Philemon Kiriago and Michael Saioli. Their names have changed since the start line. The graphics have been updated now to how their preferred names. But Paul Machoka in the middle there, he isn't a run-together athlete, but he knows Philemon and he knows Patrick from before they were racing in the Golden Trail Series. But interestingly enough, he has the same manager as Elhousine Elazzaoui. He's in the same team as Joyce Njiru. So I'm not 100% sure if Paul has any allegiance to any of these athletes over the other ones. If he has someone in his ear suggesting a useful pace for him to be running, but he does know them all extremely well and how they are going to be attacking this course. So he could be the athlete that actually unsettles everyone else the most, because we saw in last year's final when he broke at the top of the ridge, he was the one that really pulled Elhousine away from Patrick Kipignino, and he was the one that forced the speed of this race.
Back to the leader of the women's race, Caroline Kimitai. Last time we saw, she had at least 75 meters over the next athlete. The stride has shortened, understandably, just a little bit.
There, you see, I mean, a little bit of a walk there. I think there'll be a few more of those as it gets increasingly rocky as we go up this hill. Now, Caroline's story is quite reflective of quite a few of our runners here. You know, she's not someone who's been racing her whole life, but was discovered when she was a pacemaker for tourists who came to Kenya to run, and she met a Swiss couple who invited her to come and race in Switzerland because she was such a good athlete. Actually became pregnant at the time, so couldn't race, and it was almost that disruption to that opportunity that meant she didn't go into road, and her climbing talent was then discovered, and so she changed to trail. And we can see today, you know, how good she is at climbing on trail like you get in the Golden Trail.
Kiriago still leading the men's race, and what are we? We're not even 15 minutes in at the moment. 13:11 on the men's clock.
And we've had a bit of an insight into Philemon's form so far this season. He's run a couple of half marathons. The first one, his first one was, he clearly wasn't in the form that he is. Hopefully today, only ended up in 5th place, which we wouldn't expect to see. And this is now Elhousine in our screen.
Yeah,
the chasing pack.
He's moved up a little bit, closing in on that leading pack. Sensible start from the defending series champion.
I was wondering whether he was going to be shadowing Patrick Kipignino or not. He's clearly decided not to. Patrick was his main threat last season and at this race, and maybe he sensed that Patrick isn't on the form to be worrying about, and he's realized the threat was ahead. Now, Caroline Kimitai, she's not really raced so far this season. This is our first chance to get a sense of how her form is. She was involved in our season until about halfway, had issues with getting visas, and then her team pretty much disintegrated, and so has now become part of the Salomon Trail team. And from what I understand from her coach, it's allowed her to get a lot more independence in how she's approaching these races. And the big question mark with her, though, we saw at Pitts Alpine, where she was leading at the top with Nermi Lang. She was a very good climber, fast across the top, but when she came down that technical descent, she finished in 7th place. And so that's something they've hopefully been working on in this off-season, because if she runs like that again, she won't be able to maintain that lead.
The first time I raced in Ledro was in 2021. I met my wife here. It was in the party after the Ledro Sky race, so it's thanks to the trail running, thanks to the mountains. From there we started our story. We had a beautiful sun in December. There are lots of beautiful memories, and yes, I'm happy. For the finals of Golden Trail Series, I had super big expectations, and then I finished with an injury, and so I have also a sort of hate for this race, for this downhill. But yes, this year is a new year, and I hope to come back to the love for this race.
So we wish Maestri luck on the downhill section of this race. Always difficult when you've got a checkered history like that. He will be nervous at the top of the climb. Hopefully he'll save enough in the legs to negotiate the downhill safely. And yeah, a love-hate relationship with the Ledro Sky Trail race. You can understand that.
And that's one of the pressures of running your local race. You know, he sprained his ankle before he came down that descent. He said he actually sprained it at Cima Oro, which is where the cross is when they start the toboggan descent. And because he was racing at home, he carried on running down it, and we saw him being stretchered off at the finish line. My fear was that could be the end of his career. And he actually had torn three ligaments and had to spend a month in bed. So that was his preparation for the birth of his child. But we've got highlights from last year's race to give you a sense of what you're going to see today. Sorry, highlights of today's race so far, not the final. Very short highlights. The women have gone off. Caroline Kimatai at the front.
Yeah, Kimatai building a decent lead at the moment. Nina Engelhard is going well. Madalina Florea, as you'd expect, in the chase group at the moment as well. Giro just off the pace of the top three in 4th place. Krukoc is in 5. Sleen Ibe, according to our GPS tracker, in 6th place at the moment.
One of the athletes who is new to the series that has been performing so far this season well is Ruth Gitonga. And we've mentioned Nina and her World Championship. Ruth was actually second to her at the World Championships, and she's already beaten Joyce and Giroux at some mountain running races so far this season. So there's a lot of athletes who, while they haven't come together on the Golden Trail before, have had experiences of racing each other previously.
Yeah, and a slow start from Elazzaoui. Well, a relatively slow start compared to the Kenyan trio up ahead. And when they look over the shoulder to see who's joining their group, the one man they don't want is Elhousine. And he looks just as fresh as he did in Zegama. It will be an astonishing feat if he can win here as well.
Especially against fresh athletes. I mean, we've spoken about some of the races that Philemon has already done this season. He's won the Trans-Volcania half marathon, but that was 2 weeks ago, which is a decent amount of time to recover from. 7 days, unless you're Craig David, that is pretty tricky. But look at Elhousine there. I haven't seen that before. Loosening his arms to his sides. Almost like he's trying to shake off a little bit of muscle tension. But yeah, he's in his favoured position, just sat behind, the three of them working together ahead. If I was Philemon now, Kiriego, I'd sit back, I'd let Elhousine try and race. And I remember when I was younger, there was a child at our school called Simon Allison who in a 1500 metre race refused to lead, and they ended up standing next to each other on the track midway through a race, while the mental battle of who was actually going to have to go to the front unfolded. Force that on Elhousine today, make him lead, change his race up, see what he does.
It may yet happen. Well, let's have a chat with Elhousine. He's obviously got good memories from here last year, having won the race.
Pour Ledro, c'est une course que j'aime beaucoup. L'année passée, j'ai gagné. J'ai encore la course dans la tête et j'espère que ça va être un bon course. Oui, bien sûr, c'est pas facile. Une semaine de Zegama et c'est pas facile de récupérer d'un marathon. Surtout la condition qu'il y a à Zegama, c'est un long course. J'espère que ça va être bien. Et bien sûr, je suis encore lourd. Je suis encore fatigué un peu, mais ça va passer. Bien sûr, ça va être une course différente. Il y a des athlètes qui n'ont pas encore couru. Il y a des athlètes qui sont encore frais. Mais Zegama, ça donne la confiance. Je vais faire un bon course.
So there are plenty of athletes, as you know, who haven't raced yet. And they are still fresh. But the victory in Zegama giving Elhousine Elazzaoui plenty of confidence. Yeah, physiologically, you can't cheat the system. And it's going to be fascinating to see if he ties up at all. I would expect it to be on the uphill sections rather than the downhill if it does go wrong.
Yeah, and one of the challenges on the downhill, if you are tired, is that's when you pick up injuries. That's when you haven't quite got the stability, the strength, and you can have falls. And indeed, in last year's final, Elhousine fell on the downhill, and he then decided he had to just stick behind Paul Machoka. He wasn't going to overtake until the flat. He didn't have the confidence to attack the downhill with his full ability. And so there will be a few nerves today in his descent, with that in his mind. But he says he's got tired legs. I think he knows how to play the game. These last few days, he's looked so light in his approach. He's been joking with people. As I mentioned, he's already played football with the film crew. He didn't seem like someone with any fatigue, and also he seemed as if he had supreme confidence, zero pressure, because he was that confident of how he could perform today.
Yeah, and if he can win, that is a big blow to to Kimagino and to Kiriago, of course, and Paul Machoka, who will be feeling that this is a really, really good opportunity to get the better of Elazzaoui. If he doesn't win, remembering he got maximum points in the series last year, and of course the bonuses for the sprint and the climb sections is going to shake it up a little bit. But do you think if he doesn't win, that will increase the number of races he does?
Yeah, good question. And almost certainly, because we've got 7 races in our season. This is race number 2. It's your top 4 results that count towards the final. So 200 points maximum for a win. And we saw last year coming into the final that Elhousine was sat on maximum results, perfect wins, even though he had lost 2 races both in fact to Philemon Kiriago, who'd won Sierra Zanao and who had also won in Noli and Il Golfo dell'Ossola. So I'd expect him to adapt as he goes, and one of the advantages of winning early is it gives you the chance to then rest up for the final and not go into a fatigue. But talking about fatigue, not relevant at all when Caroline Kivitai is on screen. She's looking very relaxed there. Similar running style to below, but she's now emerged above the tree line. This is the end of the significant climb. So she's coming out at Boca Salval. We'll see her come through this valley. She'll turn left and continue the climb, and then she'll start to see Cima Parry, the peak of our race. But she's looking very good at this stage.
Yeah, she's over 100 meters clear of second place. Engelhardt, Gitonga and Injuru are up there. Just looking for Madalina Florea, who was up with the leaders. I think that's just a technical issue rather than the fact that the Romanian has dropped off the pace. We will update you as soon as we get any news on that. But Kimatai going really, really nicely at the moment.
Yes, he's looking fantastic. And the we saw earlier the men coming through the women's fields. According to my calculations, they'll be joining together the front of both the races as they're coming down the trail. So that could be quite eruptive.
Yeah, the winning time last year from Elazzaoui, 1:58.30. Lauren Gregory of USA winning the women's race 2:22. So we're 24 minutes apart, and that pretty much means, as you say, they're gonna see each other on the approach to the finish. Do you think they'll be down the really steep section?
It's going to be really tight, and the fact that Caroline is pushing the pace, it wouldn't surprise me if she's further ahead than Lauren was before the descent, but then they catch her up on that descent. So I think she'll be making her way down as Elhousine and Philemon fly by. Now, we saw on screen there Michael Scioli moving up to second place. He's actually been ahead of Paul Machoka in Beijing in a race earlier this year, beat him by 3 minutes. So it shows you the quality he has on offer today.
4.7 kilometers covered, and that of course is pretty much halfway to the high point of the course. And not a little look, and they're so far back she's got to do a double take. And then of course the second bonus section, the climbing, coming up between the two summits.
That's right. They have it's a 1.1k with 195 meters of climbing. So averaging 16% gradient with the highest gradient 26.6%. Absolutely brutal. I can't imagine she'll be too focused in on trying to win that section. I think her speed will do that without her having to change her pace at the moment. But we'll be seeing to the right that section
Team 2,
soon.
du coup, c'est un groupe de 5.
They go left first.
Le dossard 15 a recollé.
And a bigger group now. Number 15 at the back. It's our local runner. Quite a surprise to see. We've been assuming the pace. What's happening with Elhousine? There's something in his shoe. The lace is not tight enough.
Well, if he managed to tighten them up in that short space of time, he did a good job. I'm not sure he didn't just say, okay, I'll live with it. Doesn't want to lose all the ground that he gained.
But that was,
I was just going to say, without
being able
to read the bib numbers, Elhousine very easy to pick out by the high elbows, which make for some combative racing when it gets tough.
But that was Isaac Costa joining our top 4. The Italian runner. He knows this course well. He was at our press conference yesterday. I mean, he is a very good descender, particularly if he knows the route. So the fact he's up within the top 4, they'll be very surprised to see that. But Caroline now, she's turning left, and as you can see, the route goes left. There's a small descent before we then have our climbing segment all the way to the peak of Zegama-Aizkorri. And we heard the confirmation from the cameraman there. 1 minute lead, it seems. Is that what you heard as well, Patrick?
I wouldn't confirm it, but from what I've seen, what I've seen on the GPS can get a little bit confusing because one signal comes through a long time before the others. But last readout, there was well over 100 meters between them. That's not quite a minute, even on this steep ascent. But things starting to pick up now, and we switch from the running cameraman to the cycling cameraman. He's got a pretty tough job on his hands, to be honest.
Yeah, this is still just typical trail. This isn't the trenches we've talked about. So actually, this is the easier running that they'll be doing. When she turns back and starts to run to Zegama-Aizkorri, that's when they'll start to hit the trenches. And you'll see there are quite often 2 lines. And it becomes quite tricky to know where to run. And that could slow her down. She's not seen this course before. But she'll be able to look down to the left and see where all the other athletes are. And demoralizingly for them, they'll be able to see quite how far ahead she is right now. But on our screen, we mentioned she might be the surprise runner who hasn't been on the series before. But the world champion now, Nina Enghart, looking very relaxed, carrying, seems like she's carrying a picnic.
Well, making it look very easy, looking for signs of Caroline Kimutai up front.
I do wonder whether she's been carrying poles, if she's got this much of a backpack. And this is one of the challenges. She's new to the series, and so she won't have come here with a team. Potentially, she's having to run with more nutrition because she hasn't been at the race briefing. She hasn't been able to hand in her nutrition for the aid stations, because this is far more than you'd expect someone to be carrying at a half marathon when they're running this quickly. Now, I mentioned, so this is Nina, just to confirm again, this is Nina Enghart. We mentioned she is the defending world champion. It's the classic distance of 14.3K with only 700 meters of climbing. So this is quite a long distance for her. But when she won that world championship, behind her, in 4th place was Joyce Njuru, in 5th place, Lauren Gregory, in 2nd place, Ruth Gitonga. So her great rivals today and last year's winner on this course, she's beaten them all in the World Champs already. So she clearly has the pedigree to mix it up with the Golden Trail.
Well, another breakup of the mountain pictures. We'll do our best to stay in touch. Back with the race leader, and that was a little like Remy Bonnet last weekend, who was celebrating with the thousands of fans supporting the Zegama race. And Caroline Kimotai obviously feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling excited and I'm feeling happy to start the season for the Golden Trail Series, and I also want to do better than last year for the final. I've put more mileage and I'm feeling confident for the duration of the race and also for the technical part. Yes, I know we have 3 segments, and I think I can try to have some bonus points on the uphill one and maybe on the sprint one, but this year the field is very dense and very strong, and the girls are running fast on the flat, so I will put everything on the uphill segment.
So keep an eye out for Marie Neve when it comes to that uphill section. She's had a busy off-season, as she said. She's upped the number of hours that she's been training. So far, so good. No injuries suffered, which is often one of the problems when you up the work rate. And yeah, didn't see her on that sprint section at the bottom. It was quick, though.
Yeah, I think the intentions of that first section were very much disrupted as soon as Joyce flew off the start line. But yeah, Marie Neve, and you know, she's used to terrain like this. She lives in the borderlands of Belgium, in a valley similar to Ledro. But we can see our course here. You can see how steep the climb is, and they're going right up to Becasaval is the first peak we can see here on the right before they drop down. They're in the valley there, and in the distance, we see Chima Pari, 2,000 meters of elevation, a total climb today of over 1,700 meters, which for a half marathon is a huge amount of climbing to be doing.
Yeah,
we're tucked in now with
Elazzaoui still at the back of the pack, making sure that he keeps the race leaders in sight. Not so fussed about running on the shoulder of them, but he's not going to let them get away, I don't think. Isaac Costa is still there, local runner who's done well to make his way up to the leaders. He dropped off the pace initially, but a 3:09. It was roughly 3-minute kilometer pace that they set on the opening sprint section at the bottom at the start of the race. And so no wonder that one or two of the best climbers just couldn't or didn't want to live with that.
Yeah, and you know, Isaac Costa, he's known as a very aggressive runner. So he's actually one for them to fear. He's won the cross at Mont Blanc in last year, which is the half marathon distance of the Mont Blanc Marathon. And we saw even in Piz Alpine last year at Golden Trail, he did descend very quickly. So if he can stick with them at the front here, he's someone who potentially could challenge Elhousine on the down. And Elhousine won't be aware of his closing speed, much about him, and so may force a reaction from him early on.
Back with the leader of the women's race, Caroline Kimotai, still out front, and showing no signs of fading after that brutally quick start. Just a reminder of where we are, the northern part of Italy. What are we, 12 kilometers west of the northern tip of Lake Garda. Another stunning area. And what are 15 minutes or so up the road from Riva del Garda.
And as they hit the peak, they'll actually be able to see Lake Garda in the distance. But Lake Ledro for me is the much preferred younger brother of Lake Garda, far more peaceful, and you'll see some of the views across the lake. It's absolutely sensational. But she's now approaching the climb to Kimapari. This is the climb to our peak, so that she'll feel like she's making some good ground now, approximately 11k into our race.
Well, let's have a look at that climbing section. A reminder, this is new to the series this year. 3 sections, all of which carry a maximum of 10 bonus points, and it's the red section that we're interested in over the next 10 minutes or so. I mean, starts relatively easily, and then up and up and up. 1.1 kilometers, 195 meters of elevation, and pretty cruel to put the climbing section at the top of an 8-kilometer climb. So they're asking a lot of the athletes. The blue section that you can see now, obviously the descent, and that also worth 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, to have to give it your all for a 1k time trial, 200 meters of climbing, when you've already been climbing approximately 1200 meters already. But changes at the front. Michael Scioli now leading our men's race. It looks as if there might be a bit of a gap. We were expecting potentially someone like Ezekiel Ruto or Paul Machoka to be pushing the pace right now, but the form athlete of this season coming into today from Team Run Together has been Michael Scioli, and he's now taking to the lead. Philemon happy to tuck in behind. This could be great news for Philemon, but also what news for Team Run Together. As soon as Patrick isn't here to lead the uphill, they have a new king to replace him.
Yeah, Scioli, saw him in Sierra Zinal last year. Another one of the classic trail races that's been part of the series throughout. And Scioli making the podium on that occasion.
And that's almost been the reason why we haven't spoken about him before, because, or hugely before, because even there at Sierra Zinal, when he got a 3rd place in the most historic trail race in the world, it was behind his 2 teammates, and so he has been in the shadow of their running in the past, but he has been the form athlete on the mountain running circuit so far this season.
Yeah, Kiriago in 2nd place at the moment. He was the one who won Sierra Zinal, so these two know everything they need to know about each other. And I think what they'll be interested in is how much damage they're doing to Elhousine Elazzaoui. We'll no doubt find out exactly at the top. I think it's a bit chilly to get the t-shirts off.
And you'll probably recognise this is this song at #1 in the Italian charts at the moment. Absolutely to welcome our athletes to our peak. Hopefully they'll have as much energy as the band do by the time they get to that point.
Team 34, j'ai essayé de la traverser un peu ou pas?
Probably a good sign that the lead athletes switching the work at the front. And no surprise to see the Run Together guys working together.
As soon as the steepness of the trail softens, that's when Philemon, you know, the powerful runner, steps to the front and ups the speed. So they will be tag teaming all the way up this climb. We've already seen when Caroline pulled left, still quite runnable on the final climb at Bocasaval, and I'd imagine that Philemon will be quite happy to lead for the next 800 meters at least before it gets a little bit more steep, and maybe we'll see Michael return. But Caroline still completely unchallenged, flowing wonderfully. It doesn't look like she's going up some of the steepest sections of our series. Just a reminder, this gets up to 26% incline, and she's still running smoothly. Just looks so relaxed. But you can see now it is getting a little bit rockier. And as she hits the peak, that's when she'll start to run in the trenches. And it can be extremely frustrating. A lot of races, by the time you hit the peak, you feel like you've done the hard work. And you try and loosen up, try and stride out and let gravity work on your side. But this race is really challenging because it just doesn't give you a chance to relax. You hit the peak, you come down some very technical, some very steep, and then it's grueling running along those trenches, having to pick a line and not being able to actually find a rhythm at all.
Oh, an awkward little step down there. So important to make the landing as smooth as possible. Limit the micro trauma to the muscles.
And you know, those little steps, those little half stumbles, the fact she's looking back, I'm nervous for how she's going to deal with the second half of our race, because she's not showing yet that she's overcome her lack of skill on that downhill technical terrain. You know, those haven't been hard little sections to just jump over, to flow through, and she's looks like she's jarring as she comes down every rock. We haven't seen her with a water bottle in her hand either, have we? She doesn't seem to be, I mean, it's very hot up there.
Well, I'm sure she'll have the hydration planned as she's into the red section now. The average gradient at 16.2. I think that's the first time we've seen her walk for more than a couple of steps. She's taken something on board then. So I think rather than have the water bottle in her hand, it's been tucked away and recognizing the need just to get some fluids on board. And the view's getting better and better with every couple of meters they climb.
And, you know, really good strategy. We talked about the need for nutrition. There are almost two schools of thoughts now about when to take on your nutrition. But if you are being forced into walking, if you know you're going to have to slow down, you might as well take that opportunity to refuel. But Nina Engelhard now coming through, looking very relaxed. Does Caroline know that can she spot her? Can she see she's coming through? Again, a face she won't recognize. Not one of the regulars on the season, on the series. And so someone who should be confused to see tracking her down.
Yeah, I was just wondering why the repeated looks over her shoulder from Kimitai is the fact that she hasn't seen anyone. She's just waiting to see where they are, just hoping that she's maintained a lead. It's got to be a good sign at some stage, but I must say Engelhard is moving really nicely over the technical terrain.
And you can see here, this is the start of, you get a sense of how those trenches are going to look. They look deeper than our trail here, but already there's a choice. You've got a smoother trail on the left or the rockier one. She's choosing the better line here. Still looking quite relaxed, I have to say. She's looking good right now.
Yeah, and the trenches, of course, as any historians out there will know, is all about World War I, what was known as the White War, and Italy up against the Austrians and Hungarians. And trenches built on the mountainside, a lot of tunnels built in the glaciers as well. They've long gone, but the trenches are still there. And of course, it ended with the annexation of the region by Italy in 1919. And I think the Italians will be grateful to those who sacrificed themselves, because they have one of the most stunning areas in the Alps.
And you can see her now reaching our peak at Cima Parry, the first of one of the crosses we'll see on this route. They've actually turned this section, where the trenches are, into a far longer hiking route. 500 kilometers you can now hike, where they've pieced together all of the front line of the Austro-Hungarian position during that First World War. And I think it's called the Trail of Peace. So if you want to come to and there you see our musicians giving their full energy to our first runner.
Awkward little step which just breaks the rhythm. Cameraman doing a sterling job at the moment, but Kimotai not hanging back. What is it? Cima Slapa is the next of the summits that she'll be going over.
It's quite a sharp descent coming up. This could unsettle her. Not too long, about 100-meter drop, but the drops on our ridges are quite tricky to navigate, and we saw last year at the final where we had our top 3 male runners all together, and it was at that point that Paul Machoka really took off and forced the pace, and Elhousine had to decide whether to man-mark Patrick Abinino or to follow Paul, because Patrick didn't feel comfortable. And you can see here, fairly tricky, and this is where the steep descending starts. Already slowing down. Looking reasonably good there, though. No, fairly relaxed so far. But Nigel Engelhard in the hunt. And Madalina Florea on the right-hand side there. Looks like Madalina is also on her shoulder.
Well, we'll get a good idea when they go over the summit of Cima Parry. There you see the cross. Kimotai through there, what, a couple of minutes ago. So we're approaching a 2-minute gap between 1 and 2.
Now, if you're wondering why you've not necessarily heard that much about Nina Engelhard, she's not on social media. She doesn't have any accounts. She doesn't have any sponsors. She prefers to not have that pressure in races and to be able to just choose when she races, where she races, without any external influence. But Madalina Florea closing the gap quite a lot on that climb. We know that Madalina is a very able climber, taking on the energy there. This could be, by the time they get to that final descent, I predict they could be quite close as they hit that descent at Cima d'Oro. This is going to be one hell of a battle.
Just wondering how much Florea was going for the bonus points on that climbing section, because she took quite a lot of time out of Engelhard, and yeah, that could have been an upping of the work rate just to secure 10 points.
And look how quickly she's flown. Wow, I mean, the difference there. She just ate up 10 meters. That's partly knowing the course, but there have been a few, and again, you can see there's such an advantage to having come early and having raced here before. You know, Nina was wondering whether to go up or not. I'm not even sure if Nina had the full race briefing yesterday. She kind of arrived here unexpectedly, but that must be frustrating, where it's not your ability, it's not your racing that's letting you down, it's just not quite understanding the course. But Madalina Florea, she must have been holding back in her head, thinking, as soon as I hit the peak, let's unload. I was wondering whether she was going to wait until that steep descent, but she's clearly decided, no, I know the advantage is in my hands, I'm feeling good, let's get moving. And Joyce Njiru, the series winner 2 years ago, in 4th place, also looking good, coming to our peak currently. Now, there were some question marks over Madalina's form. She's had a great pre-season, spending 3 weeks in Iten in Kenya, doing some altitude training, but she said that for the last 8 days or so, she's had her flu that she just seems to get as soon as she comes into these big races. She's been unable to run, and it seems that my hope had been, now that she'd won the series, she'd almost thrown the monkey off her back and wouldn't feel the pressure coming into these races that has caused her to be so unpredictable. But pre-race, she had the nerves coming in, she had the physical embodiment of that pressure, but thankfully today she's running well. We know she's done a 1:10 marathon so far this season, and she's using that to good measure across the top now.
Well, there you see the best climber section, and Caroline Kimitai, the race leader, with 11:24. Florea was quick, but not quite as quick. 12 seconds back. Engelhard at 14. Njiru at 21. I guess Florea knew exactly what she had to do to pip the German athlete. And Gitonga at 1:27, down on that 11:24 of Caroline Kimitai, the race leader here. Not a long look over the shoulder from Kimitai. I think you'd be better off just keeping your eyes on the trail. It's pretty treacherous up there, as you can see. It's not quite an Anahiga, but it's very, very steep either side.
And that climb, it just gives you an insight into how much our top 4 are pushing. Over a minute between 4th and 5th of the climb. And just let me remind you, Ruth Gitonga, who is our 5th position in the uphill segment, she's come 2nd in the World Championships last year, you know, ahead of Lauren Gregory, ahead of Joyce Njiru. You know, she's a very strong climber. So our top 4 are really pushing the pace right now. But Florea looking sublime across the top here.
Yeah, Kimitai went over this summit 1:15.53, so it is easily a 2-minute gap between 1st and 2nd, and Florea opening up a healthy margin over Engelhard, who's struggled on the first of the downhill sections. Yeah, great camera work, gives you a really good sense of just how steep these hills are.
Wow, I mean, look at that valley, beautiful. It was 2 feet of snow in the region just 10 days ago. Thankfully, it's dried out since. But it's 24 degrees is the temperature forecast for today, and that will feel extremely hot. We saw in the finals last year quite a few of our athletes suffering in the heat, even though it wasn't comparable to today, and if you think about the training going into last year's final, our athletes would have been running through hotter temperatures throughout the whole of the summer. And this was snow-bound 10 days ago. A lot of our athletes won't have adjusted to this kind of temperature. So we've got to hope they're taking on more nutrition, and there have actually been more aid stations added to the course for today's race, just to try and ensure that they're not dehydrating too much. But we're with Caroline Kimitai, the race leader at the moment, still flowing very well. Madalina Florea on screen now, the winner of last year's series, chasing her down, and just off the back of her, Nina Engelhardt in third, the German challenger who's appeared from nowhere at this race, and Drisian Giroux, series champion in 24, in fourth behind her. And Marie Nivette on screen there, you can see, finished the climb now, changing around her nutrition, just ensuring she's got enough to get through to the top of our descent.
Yeah, I think Nivette will be pretty happy with the way things are going at the moment. Remember, she said in an interview a little earlier on, she's up the volume of training that she's been putting in over the summer months. Sylvia Schweiger just going through.
Team 28, il y a les premiers. Team 28, c'est les premiers.
And we're down to 3 at the front. And
allez.
happily sitting at the back of this group,
Allez les gars, allez,
Elhousine Elazzaoui, the winner of Zegama just 7 days ago. And a reminder, if you're not familiar with Zegama, that is marathon distance, over 2,500 meters of vertical climbing. And 7 days later, he's up with the best in the world and showing no signs of fatigue at the moment.
Yeah, and we saw Michael and Philemon, our front two runners, trading places slightly further down the hill, but Philemon at the front again. So this is the level of steepness. I'd have thought that he'd allow Michael to lead, but no, Philemon clearly feeling great. And we had on screen there Paul Machoka in the red and the white of NNormal in the chasing pack. But Madalina Florea now flowing down Boca Drome, looking very, very good. She'll have Caroline Kimitai in her sights.
Well, this is the first of the 3 summits that they go over on today's trail race, Cima Pari, and the leaders long gone from this stage of the race in the women's race. And of course it is the top of the sprint section, the uphill climbing section, so 10 bonus points on offer here. It's going to be a little bit of time before we find out exactly who has topped the tables and taken the maximum 10.
And it's like Patrick Ipanino to the right of our screen, former world champion, looking very relaxed there. We've got, so it seems our top 6 are very close together.
Yeah, 9:39 from Elazzaoui. Those are going to be useful bonus points, but Kiriago picking up 9, Seoli just 5 seconds down on the Moroccan. Kiprotich, Kipangino 10 seconds slower, all giving a little bit of time away to Elazzaoui.
But it shows you how much they've pushed the pace there. That was Isaac Acosta coming on screen. He was with our race leaders and has dropped back to be joining the chasing pack. And this isn't the front of a race. This is our 4th and 5th runners on screen, just to confirm. Our 4th and 5th runners currently. So we've got Paul Machoka at the back there, a very good descender. We weren't sure at last year's final how he would be on the descents, and he flew down, but, and this is great to see that there was a time when Kenyan runners, when they come to the Golden Trail, you knew they could climb fast, you knew they could run well, but we're seeing athletes joining the series now who are able technically, and you can no longer assume that a Kenyan lead won't be sustained as soon as they hit some technical descents. And both of them here looking very good, not slowing down at all on this steep descent.
Almost criminal to be running the whole way without taking in the stunning views here in the Trentino region. But it's the name of the game. Florea now flying. Certainly looks to be coming down the hills that little bit quicker than Kimotai. So it's going to be interesting to see how we go. I think most of that fluid just onto the top of the head to keep the temperature down. Little turn of that right ankle, but keeps the motion going smoothly. So I don't think any damage done, but that was close.
Deuxième.
And you get a sense of just quite how big the lead is now. Can't see at all anyone ahead. I mean, this is a much bigger the lead than I was expecting.
Yeah, and the fact that Kimotai quickest on that uphill segment, an indication she's still feeling pretty good going through the high point.
And Lucia Kekoch, you know, the unsponsored athlete who came fourth in the final last year, looking very good, climbing really well. Mother of two, returning to trail racing only in the last couple of years. Now look at that pace. Madalina has run a 1:10 half marathon earlier this year in Romania. Her fastest half marathon to date. She came into Golden Trail with a 1:11, so she not only has improved her technical ability, but she's got faster with her training.
Team 30, je lâche la deuxième femme.
And this is Samuel Kiprotich, who we've not mentioned before. He's one of the Salomon Trail team, teammate of Caroline Kimotai. Just a few moments ago, he was side by side with Paul Machoka. But wow, opening up a huge gap there. I wonder how close he'll be to our top three, because if he's moving like this, very able trail runner, he could be closing in on our top three fairly soon. Look how he's flowing there, arms out wide. This is great trail running. Just not slowing down at all. You may not gather this from the screen, but this is a very sharp descent.
He's coming up behind some of the leading women. So it's going to be interesting to see the contrast in speed.
This to me looks like Michael Seoli. Potentially that was Michael Seoli leading the race. I'd like confirmation of that first, but the taller, rangier stride, if so, wow, what a turn up for the books.
Attends. Ouais, ok.
Well, we know that Kimotai is leading the women. It's absolutely certain, and we'll try and get another split on her. My GPS tracker is all over the shop at the moment, has Engelhardt down in about 7th place, but we know she's in the top three.
Doesn't look like he's fatigued at all, does he? Yeah. I mean, if you were to put him without the mountain there, you wouldn't guess he's running up a hill. can just get a sense of how fast he is. I mean, these are our top females. I think that's Fabiola Conti. She's won twice here before on this course. Marie Neve, he's passing there, and he's just smashing through our fields. And really impressive to see. And Lucia Koch, I think the overtake there on Lucia. She's actually won 9 medals at European and World Championships in junior and senior categories in the past. But in 2018 and 2020, gave birth to her daughter and her son, and so kind of disappeared from the circuit. So it's amazing, not just to see her back, but coming back with such great form. But our race leader now, Caroline Kimitai, looking a little bit tired there. You know, I wouldn't necessarily expect her to be hiking at that level of gradient. Potentially because of the trenches hard to run through. Maybe there's some rocks underfoot.
Well, the Kenyan contingent doing exceptionally well. Philemon Kiriago was sounding confident before the race, and certainly fresher than he was at this time of year. So let's see what he has to say about his chances here today.
For sure, when I'm here in Italy, I'm ready for the race. This is my second time I'm here. I'm excited to be here again. I'm so happy to be here. Last year it was a long season for me. It was the final race. I tried my best. I come back at the beginning of the season now, ready for the race. I'm excited to offer my best because the beginning of the season, to test my shape and to know how things will start. For sure, this is the beginning of the year. We have different types of runners and different their strategies. You know, this is the beginning of the year. We are learning each other and trying to read the steps, the learning styles of people. Now, on my strategy, it is still patience. I'm waiting to run their strategy, then I will form mine, which is different from theirs.
Well, we will see how Philemon Kiriago gets on today. In terms of the leading men, we know that Elazzaoui isn't far off the leaders. Have you got Seoli out front, David?
I mean, this looks like Michael Seoli to me in his running style. And really pushing the pace there, very fast. We did say he was the form athlete coming into this race from the Run Together team. Some impressive performances in the mountain running World Cups. Caroline Kimitai still looking quite relaxed here. Not sure she's pushing the pace quite as much. And you can see some gaps forming now. Our number 3 on screen, Philemon Kiriago, I believe, running well, but was that Elhousine ahead of him? Did Elhousine, had Elhousine pulled away slightly? Still waiting for exact confirmation of our top 3 men. Wonderful shots of Lake Ledro though.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Just crystal clear waters. I think the runners would be the first in, given the opportunity, but they've got a way to go. Just a reminder of the winning times last year, 2:22.51 for Lauren Gregory. So they've got roughly 50 minutes or so to race, and the bulk of that is going to be downhill for Caroline Kimitai. Fascinating to see if she can hold off the challengers. Madalina Florea, who of course was second here last year, just 2 minutes 30 down on Gregory's time. She's moved herself up into second place.
And look at the pace here. Supremely fast there, number 4. I think that's Paul Machoka. But Madalina, she's got a new haircut. She did speak about it at the press conference. She's intentionally cut her hair off short as a message to her fans, to runners, to say that you can be who you want to be. You shouldn't be confined by the expectations around you. They posted on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, a photo of her with shaved hair. And she liked the cut so much, she thought, actually, let's do it. At the back of her head, she's got flowers dyed into her. And, you know, she's a very spiritual person. She signifies this as a signal to the world that she's not defined just by racing, and that she wants to be free of just being a racer. And so her haircut is part of it. Great to see. I think it looks fantastic.
Yes, certainly that makes our life easier when the pictures are just slightly substandard, struggling a bit with the cameras at the moment, picking up on the bib numbers. Virtually impossible at this stage of the race, up on the high passes.
What's he holding? That's Michael Scioli. What's he got in his hand? It looked like he had some nutrition in his left hand, but something quite large in his right hand that must be quite frustrating to run with.
It looks like fluid to me.
Sixth position here, Ezequiel Ruto, very good runner. We've seen him previously go out very hard in races. He was leading in Jingshanling half marathon last season until about the halfway point. So potentially a little bit more maturity in his pacing today, the fact that he hasn't gone out so hard. But Joyce Njiru here, she was in 4th last time we had an update. 2024 series champion.
I think she might have gone ahead of Engelhardt in the last few minutes or so. Not much between them at the moment. Kimotai still leading, Florea in 2nd. Njiru, we think, in 3rd place at the moment.
And while Engelhardt is world champion, in all of her best performances have been at around the kind of 14-kilometer distance. You know, world champs 14.3 when she won the Europeans in 2024, 12.7K. And, you know, this is a very long climb for her, and quite a long race for how she typically trains and races. But Michael Scioli, our men's leader at the moment, looking very good. He was using his pace across the flatter sections to really pull away from Elhousine and Philemon. I think when we were seeing Philemon earlier, it did look to me like Elhousine had made a bit of a break away from him on the downhill. I'm quite surprised that Elhousine hasn't followed Michael. He likes to always be off the shoulder of the leader, even if it's 10 meters behind, but it seems there's a greater distance between our 1st and 2nd place runner than Elhousine normally allows.
Maybe signs of that fatigue that I think most people were expecting would come at some stage, but Elhousine with that brilliant climbing section, he tops the table there, so he's picked himself up 10 bonus points, and that's certainly going to limit any damage done by not winning, if that's the way that it turns out.
And we saw the downhills in Zegama. There was a downhill split. Bogdan Damian, the Romanian runner, was our best descender. It seemed the segment in Zegama, the downhill, both Daniel Pattis, who was the race leader at that time, and Elhousine Elazzaoui, I think they were still in race mode. They came in 4th and 5th on our downhill segment. But looking ahead, the people that beat them were the downhill specialists who clearly had attacked that section. So we do know that Elhousine has a very, very good descent. And there he is now, Elhousine coming through. clearly not content for that lead to stretch too much. But they're coming up to the cross. This is the beginning of our downhill at Cimadoro. Philemon some way off the back, 30 seconds or so, more than he'd want at this stage. If Philemon can get up on their shoulder, he'll be able to take advantage of them selecting the downhill route.
Well, this is going to be absolutely, yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? And Scioli's still going so smoothly, but Elhousine almost visibly putting in extra work, trying to get on the shoulder, as you suggested, where he likes to be at the start of the downhill, and he will stay there until his chosen moment. Will he go before the bottom of the steep section, or will he try and go on the flat section, which comes at around 17 kilometers?
I think he'll hold for a little bit. So we're hitting the peak of Cimadoro here. This is the beginning of over 1,000-meter descent. You know, it's a lot of running. They're going to hit a section called the toboggan, where there's a lot of switchbacks. Before that, though, they go through some of the tunnels from the First World War, where there's caverns, there are cement steps, and I think Elhousine will sit back for a bit and almost assess how Michael's running to get a sense of whether he's worth following and saving energy on those corners, or if he smells weakness, he'll break. But this is some athletes coming up to the peak of the course, Cima Parry. But we saw in the descent in last year's final, it really did change a lot of the races. And Pumachok coming through now in 4th place. We believe he's a very good descender as well.
Well, he's within a minute and a half of the race leaders.
A Edinburgh University runner coming through there, maybe a teammate of. In fact, my mind has dropped off.
Yeah, quite a few British contenders last year, weren't there? As it was the grand final, and so many national series. Their top prize is an entry into the grand final itself.
But Caroline Kimatai now looking, she's come through the tunnel system at the top of Cimadoro, flowing very well there, looking good actually. Clearly still a lot of gas in the tank.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a very, very quick time from Caroline Kimatai. If she can keep that pace going, she's never shy of working hard. But her start was absolutely extraordinary today.
And the course is slightly adjusted from last year, so the course record will be unique and new this year. But they've got an approximately 1,000-meter drop from the peak of Cimadoro, and when they hit the bottom, it feels as if you're coming into the valley, and actually the view that you have on the course seems as if you're coming into where you expect the finish to be, but there's quite a long drag, a 5K drag, which is the point we saw Elhousine make his move last year. And so 5K of hard running, a little bit of climbing, still bringing you into our finish. So our athletes are going to have to try and flow through this downhill without destroying their legs too much, knowing that they've still got around 15 minutes of running to go after that. Fabiola Conti on screen, twice winner and full record holder of this course, one of the local runners.
Yeah, and a medalist in the short trail World Championships last year, so Conti is a class act, and certainly I think will have set out today hoping to make top three.
And Bogdan Damien there, coming through. You get a sense of how hot it was. Grabbing for 2 glasses there, and we had Alan Santamaria on screen earlier, the Spanish athlete. But coming through the trees now, these are some of the switchback of the toboggan descent that we can see Caroline Kimitai currently going through.
Yeah, Kimitai well into the descent as the tree line is reached for the second time today, this time on the way down. 1:44.55 on the race clock at the moment, so 40 minutes or so of racing still to go.
You get a sense of how hot it is, just that snapshot of Bogdan Damien grabbing for water. But even last week at Zegama, Alan Santamaria, who was on screen earlier, the taller Spanish athlete, he was dehydrated 2 hours into Zegama, and he ended up in 17th place, having been in the lead pack as they started. So it just reminds you, it's not just the temperature of courses like this that punish you. Even if it's not hot, you need to be taking on nutrition and really thinking about your liquids. But let alone when it's 24 degrees early in the spring and you're not trained for this, that's when it's going to catch up with you. So we will see some of our athletes potentially struggling towards the end of this race if they haven't got that right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because of course China much later in the season than last year, and September it can get pretty hot out there.
And even last year, the shots of China, there was so much dust on the trail, and it's a race that our athletes kind of love-hate, because running on the wall is so difficult but so beautiful and epic. But that dusty trail makes it so hard to navigate. You slip out and you're constantly breathing in those fumes. So imagine that when it's even hotter and even dustier. It's going to be so hard to actually take on your nutrition and feel that you haven't got that horrible dry mouth feel.
Yeah, Kimitai, of course, won in China last year. Kipingino winning the men's race out there ahead of Kiriago. Now, let's have a look at the downhill section, the final of the third sections where points can be won. The sprint and the uphill completed already. The downhill section, 1.3 kilometers, a drop of 385. It's not quite as steep as we saw for the uphill section, but it will certainly do some damage to the legs.
Yeah, it's an average gradient of 27.8%. That is ridiculous. And one of the challenges is if you pick up speed and you're not technically gifted, how do you then control it? And we saw even some of the best trail runners in last year's final crashing out down this section. Elhousine himself, he turned his ankle and had to kind of jog down that section and just try and protect himself. Cesare Maestri, former course record holder, local runner who knows the course incredibly well, he fell, and as we mentioned, I think he had a triple tendon issue. So they're going to have to be very careful.
Yeah, just getting the times up. 1:43. What was the distance? Just over a kilometre. And a 1:43 for Caroline Kimitai. She has not hung back. And she's taken a couple of seconds out of Madalina Florea. So that's a handy advantage. And she's really going for it today, Caroline Kimitai.
I mean, a complete surprise. It must be far more runnable than than the final, because we were expecting it to slow down on the technical descent, but clearly she's flowing through it, and it's not a challenge for her in the way we were expecting.
Now, should Florea catch her at the bottom of the steep section for the last, 3.5K, where would you put your money then? Has Kimitai, we saw the leg speed that she showed us in the first kilometre. Do you think she's likely to have that left for the last stage of the race?
It's hard to say. We saw in China the similar situation where she was caught on the wall, and as soon as she emerged from it back onto the trail, she pulled away again. This is a slightly longer run in terms of time, and but she's had another year to try and work on her nutrition. The fact that she's in a Team Salomon, they will have prepped her for this kind of distance. And Madalina, she's so unpredictable in how her nutrition sits with her. We saw at Mont Blanc Marathon 2 years ago, she did the whole thing with only one and a half gels. And so it depends if she's been able to actually have breakfast this morning and properly fuel on this course. But it doesn't look as if Caroline's slowing down, and her top end speed is so much faster, even than Madalina's 1:10 half marathon pace, that she's going to be extremely hard to catch.
So
we're coming into the last half hour now.
Yeah, I think we were mistaken with the downhill segment. That is the overall timings. Florea at 2:39. That makes total sense, having been hovering around the 2-minute gap behind. So 2:39. Kimitai still pulling away, doing the damage, and it's not quite a kilometre, but she's at least 650 metres clear of second place at the moment. So it's been a brilliant performance so far.
And looking at these pictures, it doesn't look like this course is slowing her down at all. Like that 2-minute lead is going to be... We thought the downhill was where they'd catch her, but I'd be surprised if she's losing much, if any, of that lead. But let's hear from Madalina now.
3, 2, 1, go. I'm Florea Madalina, I'm from Romania, and I represent Scott running team. When I was at 5th degree, I was chosen to practice athletics. But when was become more serious was the difficult moment in my life, because I was fall on the ground. So look exactly that line. Me, I was fall on the ground. My coach was here, and I say, "Come on, Florea, what are you doing?" When it's broken the tendon, your muscle finish disappear. You don't feel the same, like you are able to control your legs. When I was come back, was so hard mentally. So at that moment, with the doctor who I was with, say, go in the mountain. I say, wow, what is this? Because me, I'm falling here on the flat. So here, pay attention. It's a bad dog. Jace! When I was arriving in the mountain, I was saying, wow, here is the freedom, here is the wild. Here it's happiness. I need to really understand, because the sport life maybe will be short, but I don't feel the same pain, the same struggling, the same pressure. So I feel more relaxed in all what I do.
One of the big characters in the world of women's trail running, and Florea having a good race today. It looks to me as if she's going to finish in second place for the second year in succession. There are the provisional downhill times. Florea 6:34. That's much more like it over that period. In Giro, 26 seconds down. Kimitai at 36. So giving away a fair chunk of time. If that's consistent with the times we got just a few minutes ago, that would bring the overall gap down to around 2 minutes.
And at the end of that downhill section, there's still but there's still another 2K of descent to go. So if she can maintain that, she will start to pull her in, but still maybe another 30-minute lead that she'd need to claw back in the final 5K. So she's really going to have to work at it. But the fact that Caroline's now climbing, we can see that she's emerging from the bottom of our long descent. So she's beginning that treacherously draining run back into our finish line now.
Yeah, and she can see down to her left Lake Ledro, which of course is where the finish is, so she knows exactly how much descending she's still got to do. But she's broken the back of this one, I think.
But as she looks down, you actually see the lake, and there's a false turn in it that looks as if it's the end of the lake. And if she doesn't know the course, you can be drawn into thinking that you're almost there when you've still got another couple of K left to go. But still looking quite fluid. I think she's controlling this descent. She could be leaning a little bit more forward if she was running more aggressively. I think that's where, when we look at the body form of Joyce and Giroux and Madalina Florea, we might see them attacking a little bit more on those downhills.
Yeah, GPS, just going to say, GPS has got Kimatai and Florea just over 400 meters apart. On that sort of descent, it's not taking long, so I think we're probably under that 2-minute gap now between the first and second runner. In Giroux is something like 5:50 behind the race leader, and close to 2.5 minutes down on Kimatai.
And we see the classic Elhousine, the fly on your shoulder, sat behind there. We were wondering whether he would attack, when he would attack. I think this to me means that Michael's running well, and Elhousine has decided, actually, I'm quite happy being a passenger. I don't need to, there's no point in me attacking him early.
The time will come. The time will come. I wonder whether they're actually going to catch Kimatai. 24 minutes between the leading man and leading woman last year.
I mean, she's running so well. And the finish time last year, 2:22. I'd be surprised if they're not quicker now. But there's confirmation. Lucia Kokoc as well, top 4 in our descent. She came 4th overall in the race last year, the Slovenian runner. And you can see now, this is what Elhousine does so well. He lets the runner at the front choose the line. He then decides what the best route to take is. And on every corner, a slight stumble there, but every corner just shaves a meter here and there. It all adds up. It preserves his energy.
Now, a little bit of traffic ahead of the leading men. Not sure who that is that they're coming up behind. The bike's done his best to stay with the leaders. Yeah, they're the downhillers.
Philemon's caught them up. Philemon, that looked like 3 of them together there. So Philemon coming into the descent was 20 seconds behind. He's clearly pushed on the downhill. All 3 of them now side by side. We've not seen this at the end of a race before, where we've had 3 sprint finishers potentially lining up. Now, one of the challenges will be that Elhousine's sprint finish is so fast when he unleashes. And coming into last season, both Patrick Ipignino and Philemon Kiriego, they weren't sure what to do because they kept on losing to him on the final turn of these races. They went away and they introduced a 20 times 400 meter track session to try and train themselves to have speed at the end of that kind of distance. They were that focused on ensuring that they could out-sprint him. And we saw in Noli last year, the one time that Elhousine has actually been beaten to the line was when Philemon outstripped him with the pace off the back of that session. So I wonder how many sessions like that Michael Scioli and Philemon Kiriaga have done in advance of this season to try and ensure that they won't be dropped by Elhousine coming into our finish.
Yeah, I think Elhousine will be wary of that. And again, we've got to take into the consideration the fatigue as a result of racing Zegama just last Sunday, so 7 days ago. And if that doesn't affect your leg speed, nothing will. Well, there are your leading three. Kiriago, Scioli, and of course Elazzaoui at the back of the group, got his eye on everyone else. But the question is, has he got that sprint finish in him? Still got at least 20 minutes to go.
And Madalina Florea on screen in second place. Coming through, I think that's Mezzalago, one of the aid stations there. If you remember back to last year's final, it was that point that Elhousine dropped the speed bomb and broke free from Paul Machoka. But that's their last chance to take on any water. So around 4K left, just under 4K coming into our finish. I mean, these women are flying. If you think the course record, well, the race, the time last year was 2:22 on arguably a slightly faster course for the descent. They're absolutely flying still.
Yeah, uphill after a long, punishing downhill, always difficult, and reducing Florea to a little bit of a power walk, but back into her rhythm now. Kimitai just looks as fresh as she did at the start of the race.
She's looking good, isn't she? And a new name. I'm not aware of Andrea Kolbin's doesn't seem like she's a local runner you wouldn't expect with that flag.
Kolbein's daughter is from Iceland. She's from Iceland, where every surname ends with either daughter or son.
Ah, good knowledge. Wow, fantastic. Clearly someone who's backing herself for that section. Hopefully someone we can see more in the Golden Trail on future races. But back with the three amigos, but it's a different three. We're used to this, but it was normally Patrick Ipanino who'd be amongst them. Michael Scioli leading out today.
Well, it's a class act at the front. Kiriago, 6:16 on the downhill section.
10 points there, slight point advantage for Kiriago. So, I mean, Kiriago picking up 2 of our segments today, 20 points on offer. If you think a winner's 200 points, second place 188. Those will make a difference, those 2 segment points in the total scores for today. And when it comes to the end of the season, that could be the difference between coming into the finals with a lead to protect and a chasm to make up.
Yeah, and of course, Elazzaoui didn't push 100% over that first kilometre, so some way down in terms of the points on the sprint section. He was obviously very good form on the climb, took the 10 points there.
And Joyce Injiru and our bottom screen here, lovely shot, triple shot there, love that. More of that, please, studio. But Caroline Kimitai, there is climbing from that aid station for another couple of kilometers, and then when they reach the slight peak of Pieve de Ledro, that's when they have a run-in of 1.5 kilometers of downhill throwing running. It's looking like Caroline is... I can't see her being caught. She's flowing very well. This is Ruth Gitonga on our screen at the moment. We mentioned her earlier. A very good pre-season coming into this race. Second in the World Champs. We thought she'd be pushing a little bit more in today's race, actually. But that's been the pace of our top 3 women. Even someone of her level hasn't been able to keep up with our top 3. And a bit of weakness here, maybe, from Philemon. Elhousine moving up.
Yeah, so Seoli, Kiriago, Elazzaoui, the leading three. They've been chopping and changing positions over the last few minutes. I think when the course widens as they get closer to the end, then maybe we'll see someone try and get away, but at the moment, very difficult. Madalina Florea still in second place. And she's got a really good record here. Runner-up last year behind Lauren Gregory. And obviously coming with confidence this year.
So last year I won the overall exactly here in Ledro. So yes, this year I will start from here. I feel very good, ready for the race. I have a lot of happiness and excitement to do it. Until now I was not compete with the other, so I can't wait to see my level, where I am. So yes, I arrived exactly 1 week ago here. I was one to check the course, but of course sometimes it's not as you plan. When I was arrived here was cold, was snow, was rain. From one day to another I was get sick. Now I feel better. I was to check the course. Of course, I was a few pata where I didn't remember because I was run last year, so I was too focused. And now I feel I'm ready to do it again because yes, it's the time to do it.
So she's done her homework. David, in terms of checking the course, how much will they do at a time?
It depends how early they come to the race, and this is one of the benefits if you're a full-time athlete or have a big sponsor behind you. But Madalina's been here for 7 days, so it wouldn't surprise me if she'd have done half the course on one day, half the course on another. The good element of this course is you can drive up until about 2/3 of the way up and then just run the top without too much energy.
Well, coming down towards the finish, into the last 15 minutes or so of racing. The leading women still ahead of the leading men, but they are closing and closing pretty fast.
And look at how she's flowing down these hills. You know, she is attacking this aggressively. Very fast closing speed here. She'll be coming into around... Looking at what I think on the map, the last 2 kilometers, but the time would be ridiculous if that is the case. Here we go, confirmation now. It is, just to remind you, 21.5k race. And so they're in the last 2.5 kilometers now, 2k to go.
Go, go, go!
Well, there you go, and it is Elazzaoui who's the first through, I believe, and he's shaken off the two Kenyans. Kiriago Seoli losing a little bit of time, only 30 meters or so in it, but this is the burst that we've seen so many times. The injection of speed from the Moroccan, and he's back out in front. And to win this one on the back of a victory at Zegama is nothing short of sensational. It's not done yet, though. It is not done yet.
Du coup, team 2, j'ai lâché Madalina.
You've got to feel for the camera runner. They've just been trying to keep up with Madalina Florea. They were probably thinking, I get to relax quite soon, and suddenly the flying camel appears on their shoulder. But look at this pace he is pushing now. He's run this race once before. He knows exactly the distance to get home. He was happy to just sit behind, and again, he drops the speed bomb. How can you stop this? It suggests that Zegama, he wasn't even close to being full gas. The fact that he's got so much energy now and so much confidence.
Allez, grand.
Joyce and Giroux, our third place athletes on screen. I think that was that Filament? pulling ahead of her there, but Joyce now power walking, but there's no walking up these hills for Elhousine. Wow. This is a ridiculous pace at this stage of the race. Less than 10 minutes to go before our finish line.
Yeah, and it's not as if he's been sitting in third place, just resting on the way round. He's had to work hard today to stay with the leaders, but still, he digs deep into the last section, and he's got himself a healthy little lead. The GPS is telling us it's about at 45 meters. Doesn't sound much, but when it's Elazzaoui ahead of you, you know that is going to be very, very difficult to close.
And they're still climbing, and he's still running. If someone's running this pace, how do you run faster than this to close that gap? That's the challenge. Now, Elhousine has got a 28-minute 10K pace. So that is the speed he can deploy. You know, that's with him not even focusing on that as a distance. That's something he can just drop when he turns up to a road race. So, but Madalina Florea, we don't actually have any road splits for her, any PBs, because she has been that inexperienced in running. She was a tour guide. She's turned up at the race in China, her first trail race, and she won it. So we don't know how fast she can run a 5K, but based off this, it's pretty rapid. I'm gonna say 14 minutes, maybe a bit quicker. I mean, this is ridiculous speed for the end of a race.
Well, she put in a 3-minute, just over a 3-minute K at the start of this race, and she's still pushing a similar sort of pace as she comes down. She's not going to finish far behind Elazzaoui at the end of this one. The cameraman having to work 100% just to stay ahead to bring you these spectacular pictures here in Ledro. 10 minutes or so to go, you would have thought.
I'm going to say less than that. If you think that Elhousine was 10 minutes before the finish, and she's up on Elhousine at the moment, she'll start to hear the crowds of our finish line. But contrast the difference in speed with Joyce here. It looks like she was taking on a gel there. She really struggled at this stage of the race last time. I know she's been having difficulties with her nutrition, particularly in the heat, and this will feel extremely hot for her, but she shouldn't be walking at this stage in the race. We just got to hope that she can somehow get that gel inside her and get back running, because that third place won't be third for very long, with Ruth Gitonga tracking her down behind. But we talk about fatigue, and you can see it right here. A half marathon, but 2 hours of hard racing catches up with you. And this is Philemon Kiriege now on screen. Michael Scioli slightly ahead, so this is our second and our third runners now.
And no sign of Elazzaoui out front. We will catch up with him fairly shortly.
I mean, this is perfect racing for Caroline Kimmorley. All of her losses have been not on Golden Trail. Pitts Alpine, sorry, she came 7th, but 3 wins this is coming up to now in her second season. Unbelievable. In fact, this is, in terms of the calendar year, a year of running. But Elhousine as well. Now we're talking about untouchable runners. Is Caroline positioning herself as the Elhousine of the Golden Trail, of the women's running? Now 3 massive wins it's looking like. And Elhousine now looking back, just checking the distance. He knows he's got this in the bag. I think he can relax a bit now. What pace still, though?
Astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. Last dousing with the cool water. And
who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the two of them? It's men against women now.
He's pretty much one corner behind by my reckoning, but there is absolutely no way that there will be a 24-minute gap between the best of the women and the best of the men. Remember, the women did get a lead of 20 minutes, so it's going to be around that 20-minute mark.
Yeah, and the fact that it just shows you how fast Caroline Kimitai has been running today. You'd expect some athletes to be performing at this level early in the season. There's such tired legs in our final last year, but wow, to be 20 minutes behind the men's, that's more Mathis territory. But it looks like Philemon Kiriago has made the break as soon as he was on the road. Ahead of Michael Scioli now. He's now in second, some distance behind Elhousine Elazzaoui though. But it looks like our 1, 2 and 3 are now being determined, and Madalina Florea as well, also on that road section.
Into full flow for Elazzaoui now as he comes down towards the lakeside. Has he made the overtaking manoeuvre? Here he comes, I'm pretty sure that is Kimitai. There might be a case for them both crossing the line together, but Elazzaoui, no, he's straight through. He's not going to take any risk at this stage. A sprint finish between those two. That is absolutely astonishing from Kimitai, what she's achieved today. Started fast, has finished even faster, and there's just going to be meters between the first man in and the first woman. Yes, there was a 20-minute lead, but that's an outstanding performance from Kimitai. Elazzaoui starts the celebrations. A couple of looks over the shoulder just to make sure that Kiriago and Scioli are nowhere to be seen. So the men and the women's champions across the line, and they're going to cross it together. Nice touch. Really nice touch.
Beautiful to see. They don't know each other well, but wow, unbelievable performances from both of them. It's a 1-1 for Africa. Kenya and Morocco winning the Golden Trail race today. Although they do look slightly different energy levels. It looks as if Elhousine could do another half marathon or so without being too drained. Caroline has left it out there though. What a performance.
Yeah, all the physiologists, I think, will have to rewrite their books after that performance. A hard marathon last Sunday over the mountains at Zegama, and he's come here to Italy, Ledro, and produced another classic Elhousine performance. How about that? Nothing that Kiriago could do, nothing that Scioli could do. They threw their best at it, they started fast, but in the end it was that finishing speed of Elhousine Elazzaoui that just cannot be beaten. We saw it time and time again last year, and he started in the same fashion. 2 from 2 for Elhousine, and across the line in second place, Philemon Kiriago. What a race! But he must be thinking, how on earth do you beat the Moroccan? Not easily is the answer. And certainly Michael Scioli in third place.
He was carrying his jacket the whole way down. Interesting. That's what it was. And Madalina, delighted. She's had a great run today. Just didn't slow down at all. But the damage was done on that long prime. Caroline Kimitai really put a huge amount of effort into building that lead. And a couple of minutes up. But we talked about the segments, and Philemon did commit a lot early, and we wondered whether that was a good tactic, but potentially he won't be that many points behind on Elhousine because of those segments. Could be a good strategy by him.
Yeah, and Florea absolutely delighted. Second place as she was last year, but she's a whole lot quicker than she was last year. She was around the 2:26 minute mark last year. She's under 2:20 this time round, and a class act, wearing number 1, finishing number 2 behind Caroline Kimitai, who was just sensational. Brilliant race. Quite how they can celebrate and jump the bollards at the same time is beyond me. Wow. Ledro delivers again. Strong case for starting the men and women 20 minutes apart, David.
Grazie amici di Ledro Sky Trentino, grazie per queste grandi accoglienze che stanno riservando ai nostri atleti.
Kiprotich across the line, and we've got this looks like a nasty fall.
Madalina.
I think that's Fabiola Conti who's gone down. Oh, so close to the finish. That's very disappointing. There's Kiprotich. Good effort from him. So many losing touch in the early stages. It was a brutal pace. A brutal pace set by the lead runners on that first kilometre. 21 Ks later, they were still going and still going hard. No let-up whatsoever. Njiru, who ran out of gas just before the end of the steep downhill section, really struggled on the undulations that lead back towards Ledro and the finish. Is there any danger from behind? I don't think so. I think she's okay in third place.
Grandioso, bravissimo,
Well, we missed the bulk of the Kenyans last week, but they've shown us what they can do today. Kipchino, the winner of the Great Wall Race last year in China, off the podium this time round, but he will be back. He will be back, and he will threaten the win. Who's going to be the next man who can beat Elazzaoui? So that's 2 from 2. He's picked up some decent bonus points. Remember, Elazzaoui picking up 212 points from his first race of the season with the newly introduced bonus segments. Excellent finish from Jan Torella, not hugely experienced, but the Spanish athlete, racing really well. He's only done a few before. He raced in the Spanish Championships and surprised himself with how well he did. And the finish cannot come quick enough for Joyce Njiru, the series winner back in 2024. She won Broken Arrow last year. No victory for Njiru this time. But nice pictures again.
Immagini bellissime di questo arrivo al femminile con Joyce Montoni e Madalina Florea. Ma noi siamo pronti ad accogliere per il team
Florea and Njiru saw a lot of each other in the early stages of that race. A good battle out there.
Eccolo che arriva.
Ezekiel Ruto.
Accogliamolo come si deve. Arriva da queste zone il signor Isacco Costa.
And Isacco Costa, the local man. That's not a bad performance, is it? Well in that top 10. And yes, he knows the trail better than just about everyone else here. Doesn't make it any easier, to be honest. Well, that completes round 2, just about. Still quite a few athletes to come across the line. Engelhard, new face in the world of trail running, but already established as an outstanding athlete. Maybe started a little bit too hard. She was in second place at the approach to Chima Parry, and then just faded on the downhill, the technical side of the course catching her out in the latter stages. But that's 2 rounds completed. Remember, 7 before the grand final in Korea, which is going to be in October, so they've got plenty of time to get the rest of the races in. The next time they'll be in action is July the 5th, the Mega Trail in Quebec, then August the 1st, the Pitts Alpine Glacier Trail, and in Austria, which is another classic. Hopefully it won't be weather affected this year. Sierra Zinal, not to be missed, on August the 8th. And then September we have a race on the 20th, the Miyoko Trail, and then of course the Great Wall Trail race, Yin Shanling in China on September the 27th. Nashon Kiplomo over the line, another man making the top 10 as he was expected to do, but never really playing a part with the race leaders. Well, let's have a chat with the winner today, Elhousine Elazzaoui, crossing the line hand-in-hand with Caroline Kimatai. A really nice touch from Elhousine. He knew victory was in the bag at that stage. Alain Santamaria, 4th in the Short Trail World Championships. Found the distance maybe just a little bit tough. There's another of the Italian runners over the line. He's put in a good performance. But it's time we heard from the men's winner, Elhousine Elazzaoui. Here he is with his thoughts on today's race.
Was that always the plan?
First, I am very happy. Winner Ghana here in Ledro Ferme is historic because last weekend you have Zegama, you have sometimes the tire, but yeah, Zegama give me the confidence and the people on all the track. You tell me, Elhousine, that is incredible race, very fast, but. Reality, I am very happy. It is a fantastic race. Thank you for all, and I am very, very happy for my winner here again. You have the beautiful memory, and yeah, very happy.
So he should be. Yeah, I think a lot of people advising him that the double wasn't possible, but he's done it. He's done the Ledro Sky Trail and Zegama within the space of 7 days. And he looks a whole lot fresher than Caroline Kimatai, who's won the women's race. She's put up a great performance, went out so hard. I think many thought that pace initially was suicidal, but it was a brilliant start. The tactics worked perfectly for Kimatai, who gets the 200 points for the win. Elhousine Elazzaoui, 2 wins from 2. He's a long way clear. What a race. Perfect conditions. Yes, a little bit warm, but most of these runners are used to temperatures in the mid-20s. Another good race from Philemon Kiriago, 2nd place in the men's race today.
Started fast, you got the fastest downhill segment. Were you thinking about the segment points today when you were racing?
For sure, today it's my best race. I was targeting to win in front of my Korean scene because he was from Zegama. I was targeting to challenge him, but unfortunately I didn't make it. I'm going back to Kenya to prepare to meet.
Well, apologies for loss of the sound there. He said he was heading back to Kenya to prepare. What have they got? 6-7 weeks before the next of the races. Lots of travelling to get in then. Quebec, the mega trail. That is on the 5th of July. And around Mount St. Anne out there, around the Laurentian Mountains, it's a stunning course, very different, with a steep climb initially, undulations at the top, and then a very gradual descent with a flat finish. Actually, I say it's unusual. It's not far from what we see here in Ledro. Sometime the legs just give way.
Sostenuta da voi la fatica e l'arrivo di Massimiliano Berti.
Well, I'm slightly surprised that runner didn't help. Just meters to go. Agonising pictures here at Ledro. Just shows you how much effort they put in. They pushed themselves to the limit. Well, I think sensibly the camera pulling back will get first aid essential at this stage. Now, third place in the men's race today, Michael Seoli. And David's with him right now.
Michael, this is the first race in the Golden Trail where you've led aggressively. Did you know before today that you had the chance of winning this?
Oh, first of all, I really appreciate my performance for the first Golden Trail for this year. The weather was good. I started very well, and I'm good, and I am so happy to finish.
Two ladies, signore e signori, la prima al femminile. Voglio sentire le campane. Voglio sentire le campane per Fabiola Conti.
Certainly a little bit of an unknown quantity coming into this. Fabiola Conti over the line. 7 is Nive Marie, two-time in the top 10 last year, so that's a good start to her campaign, and I think she'll be pretty happy with that. But I thought it was Conti who took a tumble, but I must have got a wrong big number there. No news of any serious injuries out on the course. Now, Caroline Kimatai, runaway winner in the women's race, opened up a gap in the first 2 or 3K, was a long way clear by the time they hit the top of Chima Parry. And here is the winner of the women's event today.
Caroline, today's race, you nearly had it won at halfway. Did you run the first hill knowing that you needed to be a big gap to win today?
Thank you so much. My name is Caroline Kimtai. I thank God for today. It was not easy in my side, but I keep all my best. I need to thank my coaches, my managers, my whole teammates. I need to tell them thank you so much for letting me win today. It is all because of you. It was not for me only, but it is for whole team and all Kenyans. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here today. I'm very happy.
Well, there is Kimatai, pictures of her crossing the line along with Elhousine Elazzaoui, the winner of the men's race. They started 20 minutes apart, and that is an indication of just how quick Kimatai was today. A scripted interview, unfortunately, but when there are language barriers, it makes it really difficult for some of the Kenyan athletes. But as they spend years on the trail, we will get to understand them just a little bit better, get to know more about their training regimes. And I think we can see from these pictures, doesn't matter where you come from, victory tastes good. So Elhousine Elazzaoui taking the victory in the men's, Kiriago in second place. Strong finish from Kiriago, and Michael Seoli finishing in third, which is where he was in Sierra Zinal last year.
Madalina, second today, but the pace was so fast. Like, what do you make of today's performance?
So first I want to congratulate everyone, and then I want to say thank you for who is behind me, for coach, family, Vasile, and all the sponsors who support. Today I want to say I win in front of my mental. So usually everyone knows I'm starting fast, but today I was stay back and I was listen my body until I was able at the one point, you know, I was need to manage my feelings. So doing until to the end and finish second, I'm able to say it's as a winning for me.
Well, that's a nice attitude to take. Madalina Florea feeling that second was good enough for her, certainly celebrating as though it was a personal victory. Second last year, second this year, and gets her defence of the Globe and Trail series that she won last year, gets it off to a good start, this being her first race. She didn't take part in Zegama. Very, very few athletes racing both. Astonishingly, the winner of the men's race, Elhousine Elazzaoui, racing Zegama, full marathon distance, over 2,500 metres of climbing. And he's come here to Ledro today, and he's won again. And he did it convincingly. Broke away with about 2.5–3K to go. Nothing that Kiriago could do about it. Nothing that Seoli could do about it. He stalked them from a slightly slower start than normal, but he got closer and closer and closer, and when it came to the start of the descent, he had everyone in his sights and just closed them down bit by bit, ready for his signature move, that explosion of speed over the last 3K.
I just got up with Elhousine at the finish there, and I said, easy, and he said, that was not easy. So I think, but we mentioned on the right of our screen here, Andrea Kolber-Stottir. I mean, that downhill has brought her into the top 5. What a performance from her. If you think of the calibre of people she's alongside, a new name for the series, to top 5 at this level, really impressive.
Yeah, and she comes from a country which is snow-covered for 8 months of the year. So it's going to be fascinating to find out about her training, where she goes, what she does. I suspect that, like Alexanderson, she's got plenty of sports up her sleeve, and probably well into the cross-country skiing, which is a very, very handy sport to have as a backup.
But the athletes, we've just done... I mean, that's one way to wash, isn't it? Get your electrolytes in from your sweat. But everyone is absolutely absolutely dripping down there. It's so hot, this race. And they've got watermelon water, and people are coming in just desperate to rehydrate. But you can see that. This is why we love trail running. The level of friendship on the finish line. Fierce rivals, and yet maybe that's a tactic. Blind your rival for next time.
Yeah, I think Madalina Florea is leading the party down there. She's chuffed a bit to be across the line. Great race from her. Second place, Caroline Kimitai, unbeatable today. So impressed and absolutely astonished that she could start at the speed she did and keep it going. She looked so strong in the closing stages as well.
Yeah, just flawless, really. You know, we saw at the World Champs on the downhill, she just stopped and DNF'd, and we're going to hear from her shortly in the interview of how she's approached her training. But maybe another Icelandic runner coming through the line there. Fantastic.
Yeah. I think we're going to get an interview with Joyce and Giro.
We saw at the end you were really struggling with the uphills. Were you scared at one point that third wasn't going to be possible?
Well, I can say I'm quite happy with that position. So it's still in the beginning of the season. So number 3 is a good start for me. And yes, for last year wasn't that quite good. I really suffered a lot, especially during the top. And so today I improved a little bit. I could not feel it that much rather than last year. So yeah, it's a matter of improvement for me. So I'm quite happy with that position. No matter even struggling, I made it to the finish third. So I was still fighting for position 2. But after 2 kilometers, I could not catch Madalina. And I was like, okay, be satisfied with number 3, and next time try to improve.
Yeah, and she held on really well there. If we think about the pace she was, the walking she was doing up the hills, and flashbacks to last year's final where she shared places. I think she ended up in 7th in the end. So she looked really happy when I was chatting to her. In fact, all of our top 3 men and women all seemed delighted with their performances today. And it seems as if the Golden Trail has already taken a step up in performance level this year from last year, particularly in the women's.
Yeah, it's going to be a competitive season, certainly. What was your feeling on Tove Alexanderson? Do you think she'll do enough to be in the running come the end of the season, or do you think that's just not in her programme? She's too busy with orienteering and other sports.
We know she wants to do Sierra Zanao, a race she should do well in, and we've just got to hope that we can chip away by setting her on the idea of returning. But you know, you look at the performance today. Tove is so good on technical terrain, but when it comes to races like Jinshanling, Sierra Zanao, more flurble ones, maybe we have a new challenger in Caroline Kimitai. Let's see what happens in today's race.
Here we go. 20 seconds.
So you can see, even this morning, the temperature was blistering at the start, and they went off hard as expected. The first kilometre, our sprint segment, but Caroline Kimitai left them all behind almost immediately and started climbing. Slightly different story in our men's. It was actually Philemon Kiriago who was leading out, winning our sprint segment, potentially with his thoughts on those 10 points. But as he went up the hill, the surprise that Elhousine wasn't in the front group. By the time they reached our peak, it was Caroline was absolutely streaking ahead, but Nina Engelhard starting to track her. And still, it was the 2 run-together athletes leading with the men's. There were question marks about whether Caroline would be able to sustain that pace over the top, and Madalina Florea then took over as the leader in the chasing pack. But Caroline just didn't slow down. She's been learning technical ability. And in the men's, Elhousine chose to up his pace and be amongst the top 3. Michael Scioli, though, making the break and gapping Philemon Kiriago. Coming off the back of the hill, though, Despite Madalina's fast descent, Karolina Kimitai wasn't being clawed back. A 2.5-minute lead coming into our last 5K. And as they neared the end, you can see Elhousine there making a break. Decisive speed over the last 2 kilometers. And even though they started 20 minutes apart, the men and the women's finishing together, that is how fast Karolina Kimitai was today. But what a performance from both of our champions. Philemon Kiriago coming in second, winner of 2 segments, combined with his second place. A good haul for him. And Michael Scioli has come third in the Golden Trail before, but this feels like a change. He's never led out. He's never looked like a real contender for the win. Madalina Florea, some question marks having been ill all week, but you can see how happy she was with her race strategy today, running fast all the way through the line. New runner Samuel Kipachich from the Salamontine finishing in the top 5 as well. And Joyce Njiru struggling with the nutrition and the heat, but coming in for third, our series champion for 2 years ago. Great training friends there, as you can see. But our top 5, some new names in there in the women's. Nina Engelhardt, the world champion, threatening at one point, but coming in 4th place. And the Icelandic runner, Andrea Kolbens. I'm going to butcher this, apologies. Do you want to take over, Patrick?
Kolbein's daughter. The daughter of Kolbein, yeah. So your son would be David's son.
She had the fastest downhill split today. Clearly a very talented descender. Salomon athlete as well. We hope to see her in Pitts Alpine, one of the most technical routes we have in our series coming up.
So there are the men's results. Yeah, Elazzaoui up top, 1:55.48, winning time last year, 1:58.30. So well inside that. Kiriago, a brilliant second. Scioli, he was there or thereabouts. In the end, giving away 1:22. Kipratich keeping the Kenyans dominating that top 5. They got 4 of the top 5 positions. We missed most of them in Zegama, but they've shown they are on very, very good form. And I would suggest they're on better form than they were last year. The segment winners, Florea and Kiriago winning the sprints. The best climbers of the day, Kimitai, who won the women's, and Elazzaoui, both champions, winning the hill climb today. And Kolbein's daughter winning the downhill for the women. And Bogdan Damian, storming descent from him, 5:26. That is absolutely suicidal. Brilliant performance to see.
And, you know, he won our downhill at Zegama as well. He's positioning himself as the best descender on earth right now. 2 for 2 for him.
Well, that's it from Italy, Ledro, the end of our programme today. We'll be back on July the 5th, Quebec hosting the Mega Trail, and that's not going to be easy in the Laurentian Mountains. Looking forward to that one already. And then the Salomon Pitts Alpine Glacier Trail on August the 1st. Lots to look forward to. 2 down, 7 races to go, plus, of course, the grand final in Korea. Looking forward to every single one of those races. Thanks for your company today, and we will see you next time on July the 5th. You there, David?
Can you hear me okay, Patrick?
Yeah, got you.
Cool. Yeah, did you get the race time splits? I couldn't figure out how to find them.
I didn't get any.